How did a pirate, accused of poisoning his own predecessor, manage to ascend the throne of St. Peter? This was the question the entire Christian world pondered at the beginning of the 15th century. The answer was simple and terrible: through force, money, and unprecedented audacity. His name was Baldassare Cossa, and he didn't just wear the papal tiara, he bought it, carving his path to power through blood and debauchery. History knows him as Antipope John XXIII, a man whose crimes were so monstrous that the Church preferred to erase his name from its annals. Yet, his memory could not be expunged, for his journey is not merely the story of one scoundrel, it is a mirror reflecting all the filth and hypocrisy of an entire era, when the papal throne became the ultimate prize in a game without rules. But Baldassare was not born a monster. He was the son of impoverished Neapolitan nobles who learned a bitter lesson from childhood. Noble blood is worthless without gold. He witnessed his proud family being humiliated and trampled by richer, more influential neighbors, their last possessions stripped away under the guise of law and piety. It was then, in that seething cauldron of resentment, that young Cossa made his choice. The world, he decided, was not a divine order but a brutal struggle for resources. In this struggle, there were no right or wrong, only winners and losers. He understood that rules were invented by the strong to keep the weak in check. Therefore, to win, one must not follow rules but establish one's own. Honor, faith, conscience, all became mere tools in a game where the grand prize was the entire world. And the world he sought to conquer was itself tearing at the seams. The late 14th century was not just a date. It was the era of the Great Schism, when Christianity found itself with two heads and soon three. One pope in Rome, another in Avignon. Both declared themselves the sole vicars of God, cursing each other and excommunicating entire kingdoms. Holiness transformed into a political instrument, and the papal throne became an arena for gladiatorial combat. All of Europe became a colossal, churning market, where loyalty was the most sought-after commodity, and oaths were merely temporary contracts. Kings and bankers gambled on their pontiffs like racehorses. In this murky torrent, where faith became small change and sin a profitable investment, a predator like Baldassare Cossa felt not just confident but entirely at home. And he wasted no time. Upon receiving the post of papal legate in Bologna, he transformed the city into his personal laboratory of power. His first scheme was brilliant in its simplicity. He taxed not only merchants and artisans but sin itself. Every brothel, every gambling house, every moneylender now paid tribute directly to him. Then he went further. Cossa organized the sale of indulgences on an industrial scale, mechanizing the absolution of sins. In a few years, he siphoned hundreds of thousands of gold florins from the region. But money was merely a means. With it, he hired the best mercenary army in Italy, transforming himself from a mere cardinal into a powerful warlord. Those who dared to oppose him disappeared. Those who obeyed received their share. He built a state within a state where his will was the sole law. But his primary weapon was not fear, it was temptation. Cossa was a brilliant psychologist of the masses and an ingenious recruiter. He peered into a person's soul and unfailingly discerned their price, their secret thirst, their weakness. He didn't force, he offered a deal. He didn't demand loyalty, he bought complicity. He gathered around him not followers but fellow predators, like himself, cynical, hungry for money and power priests, ruined nobles, ruthless condottieri. His message was crystal clear: become part of my pack and you'll get your share of the spoils. The rules of the old world are dead. I am creating a new one where we will be kings. He transformed vice into a corporation and sin into a career ladder. And people followed him not because they were afraid, but because it was incredibly profitable. The main shareholder in this corporation of sin became a man whose name would soon be synonymous with power and money, the Florentine banker Giovanni de' Medici. This was no mere alliance, it was a pact. The Medici financed Cossa's ascent to the papal throne. In return, they received an exclusive contract. Their bank became the official treasury of the Holy See. Now, they received a percentage from every indulgence sold, from every church tax from Portugal to Poland. But this gold-producing machine had one powerful enemy, Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund. He saw the schism not as an opportunity, but as a mortal disease threatening to destroy the entire Christian world. To him, Baldassare Cossa was not a pontiff, but a symptom of this illness. And Sigismund was the surgeon who intended to excise this tumor, whatever the cost. A battle of titans was beginning, old imperial power against the new power of money. Emperor Sigismund set a trap, and Cossa fell into it. This was the Council of Constance in 1414. Baldassare arrived as the master of the situation, confident he could buy or intimidate anyone. But he fatally miscalculated. The council, weary of the schism, demanded the impossible, the abdication of all three popes. And at that moment, his empire collapsed. His cardinals, his appointees, those who had fed from his hand, were the first to betray him. They saw the ship sinking and rushed to save themselves. And then the pope fled. At night, disguised as a simple merchant, he escaped from Constance, trying to save not his throne, but his own skin. But the empire caught up with him. He was captured, shackled, and dragged back to trial. 72 charges: piracy, murder, sodomy, simony, incest. His entire journey from Neapolitan thug to self-proclaimed vicar of God was read aloud like the dirtiest crime chronicle in history. The verdict was crushing. He was stripped of his rank, title, and freedom, imprisoned in a German castle. But what became of his business partners? The Medici bankers not only survived, they instantly adapted. Giovanni severed all ties with the deposed pontiff and immediately offered his services to the new pope, elected by the council. The bank always wins. But the main consequence was not this. The council passed a decree that forever changed the rules of the game. Henceforth, the supreme authority in the church was declared to be not the pope, but the council itself. This was a direct blow to the absolutism of the pontiffs, a revolution born from the crimes of one man. And his countless treasures, siphoned from Bologna, were confiscated. The church simply reclaimed what had been stolen in its own name. And herein lies the main paradox. His name was erased from the list of pontiffs, his papacy declared invalid. But it was precisely this act of erasure that made him immortal. He became not just a criminal, but a point of no return. The embodiment of the abyss into which the Christian world peered and recoiled in horror. His life was screaming proof that the system was rotten to the core, and to survive it had to be broken. He left behind no laws, no dynasty. He left something far more important, a scar, a deep scar on the body of the church, which forever reminded it that even the vicar of God could turn out to be an ordinary pirate, and that any power that considers itself absolute inevitably breeds monsters.